Good evening. Welcome to this very powerful episode. And I don't mean this by any stretch of imagination. I have a 72-year-old woman with me today, and she's going to tell me about the long list of criminal activities she's done for the sake of Palestine. Her rap sheet is longer than a lot of our resumes. Maybe she likes prison. I'm very grateful to have her on. Dee, she's a 72-year-old Irish woman, and she's devoted the last 20 years of her life for the cause of Palestine. I'm going to pick her brains and ask why she's doing it. She's not Muslim, why she does what she does, and she's been doing it long before 7th of October.
Yeah.
For some people, that's where things started, the world started. And she's going to also tell us about the horrors that she's faced. She's probably been locked up about 8 or 9 times in this country, 2 times in Israel. Forgive me, I don't know the name of the prison. And she's stayed there on vacation for 8 or 9 days in prison. So she's going to walk us through all of her memoirs, to say the least. And she's going to talk about why she does what she does, her experiences, and why she continues to carry on the fight. Thank you very much, Steve, for joining us all the way from Wales. We appreciate having you. And if my memory isn't hazy, you told me that you actually at a Palestinian protest earlier on today. So
Yeah, I know. That's right.
your spirits are very high with regard to Palestine. The floor is yours. Tell us about why the cause of Palestine has been so dear to your heart and why you've risked your life and risked your image and risked everything really for
Okay.
Palestine.
I think a good place to start would be I've always been one for to stand up against injustice. And one of the biggest things in my lifetime in Wales and in the UK was the Iraq War. I think I was like most people up to that point, writing to my MP, signing petitions, and going on peaceful demonstrations. And then I started going to the bigger ones in London. And I noticed every time I went, I would see this placard and it said, Sharon is the terrorist. Bush is the terrorist. Now, I knew Bush. We all know Bush. He was pushing for the war in Iraq. Sharon is the terrorist. I knew he was Prime Minister of Israel. I knew a very small amount of Palestinian history. I'm ashamed to say now. That was 2003. But when the war went ahead in Iraq, I, like many other people, were deeply depressed. I was deeply depressed. I realized that all the democratic ways they tell us that make a difference make no difference. So I then came across an organization called ISM, the International Solidarity Movement. It was set up in the Second Intifada by Palestinians, Israelis, and internationals. And they were calling for people to come to Palestine and see for themselves what was really happening. So my heart just leapt when I saw there was an opportunity to go. I mean, in that time, my grandkids were quite young. I think I had 3 young grandkids. So my daughter wasn't thrilled about the idea of me going to Palestine. But honestly, I had to go at that point. I just felt I had to go. And when people ask me, is it dangerous to go to Palestine? I always say this, it's extremely dangerous because what happens when you go to Palestine is you leave your heart there and you will always, always want to go back. And that's why I've been returning from 2004 to this year, when sadly I was banned. I've been banned now.
For how long have you, when were you banned? Which year?
I was banned in May this year,
Oh,
after being arrested and detained. I think I came out in June. Sorry, my memory's a little hazy about the dates. But the Israelis have banned me from Palestine. And even though I'm heartbroken, I say to myself, Dee, think of all the Palestinians who are also banned from Palestine, their homeland. So even though it breaks my heart to not be able to see my friends again, I feel more for the Palestinians who can't go back and see their families. There are Palestinians here in Swansea who cannot go to Palestine. That is shocking, right?
that was palpable. Your first arrest was in, forgive me if I've got the dates wrong, was in 2012 in Israel. Well, Palestine, Israel, call it
Yeah.
Israel.
Yeah, in Palestine, it was a straight. Let me tell you, it's an interesting story. So I'd been going a couple of times, and then I don't know if you probably know this, but maybe all your listeners don't. When you go to Palestine, you have to lie. You have to lie at the border because everywhere is controlled. All the borders of Palestine are controlled by Israel. So whether you go via Jordan or Egypt or come in through Ben Gurion, it's the same. So you have to make up a story. Now, luckily, I was born in Ireland. I was born a Christian. So I can legitimately say I'm a Christian pilgrim. But for other people, younger people, they have to say they want to go surfing on the beaches of Israel. You're not allowed to mention Palestine. So on this occasion in 2012, the people in Palestine, the societies, decided, how about we invite you on a cultural visit to Palestine, only this time you say, when you get to border, when you get to Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv, you say, when asked, what is the purpose of your visit? You say, I'm going to visit Palestine. I was going to visit the Freedom Theatre in Jenin and the Bethlehem Peace Center. Now, there was 127 of us, and it was called the Flotilla. So it was called the Flotilla. So 127 of us from across Europe, maybe about 30 from Britain, got to Ben Gurion, and each one of us said, what's the purpose of your visit? I'm going to visit Palestine. And we were immediately arrested. So they arrested 127 people, and they brought us to Givon prison in Ramleh. It's not so far from Tel Aviv. And interestingly, that's where I ended up last May as well. So at least I knew what to expect. But what I find fascinating is, you think the media now isn't covering the genocide in Gaza, the terrible things that are happening in the West Bank? They never covered it. They never covered what's been going on in Palestine, going all the way back. So, for instance, wouldn't you think 30 British citizens are in prisons in Israel? Wouldn't you think that would be a news item? No, with silence. Because it's about Palestine. So our mainstream media is so corrupt. They're Zionists through and through, and always have been, I think.
Thank you. I'm not surprised, and you're not the first to give testimony that you were locked up and questioned days on end without any cause or due cause. Can you tell me the types or the techniques of questioning they put towards you as a British Caucasian person?
Yeah. That time in 2012 was, they didn't even question us. Well, actually they did, because I brought a secret camera into the prison. So I was able to film. Can you guess what my secret camera was?
Oof, maybe on your lapel?
No. I won't make you guess too much, but it was a watch.
Oh, wow.
So I was able to film inside the prison, and actually it got on Al Jazeera English, which I was very happy about. But this time in May, I was arrested because I was documenting actual ethnic cleansing. Before my very eyes, it was happening. So that was the charge. No, sorry, that was not the charge. The charge was I was in a closed military zone. I refused to leave. Can't remember, there was a third one. But in the detention center in Ben Gurion, they did bring what we were told is their number one interrogator. He had to drive 2 hours from Haifa to interview two elderly white women. I mean, you know. He was a bully, and he interviewed my friend Suzanne first, and I was in the hallway and I could hear him shouting at her, berating her, ignoring her answers, trying to trick her. And so when I went inside, not having anything to lose, I said to him, before I sit down, I'm going to tell you, you are a bully. I can hear you shouting from the hallway. So that made me feel more powerful. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't going to be cowed by this guy. So unfortunately, it's just the browbeating questions. It's the usual. Are you involved at BDS? Are you this? Are you that? And it went on for a few hours. But I think it's very important that your listeners hear this. I have white privilege. I have an Irish passport. The Irish embassy knew I was detained. Now, where I went to Ramleh prison looks like a prison, feels like a prison, but actually it's a prison for foreign nationals. I don't want anyone to think it's anything like the torture centers that the Palestinians are sent to. I mean, this time round, I met someone who had been released after a year. Can you believe this? He was a bodybuilder. He owned a sweet shop. He was taken in the night from Jenin camp. He doesn't know why. He went in at 150 kilo. And when I met him, he was 60. I have a before and after photo. I wish I could show you.
We can perhaps show them to the audience if you send them to me live.
I will do that. I will. Yeah. It's a completely shocking photo. He was covered in scabies. Actually, when we were talking to him, he was wearing gloves because he wanted to make sure he didn't contaminate the people around him. And he describes stories to me that were so harrowing, like 10 to a cell for 4 people, a thin blanket for a year, a plastic spoon and a plastic fork. And if that broke or cracked over the year, that was it. There was nothing to hold your meager amount of food in. He described his friend he didn't know why he was in there, but they kept taking this one guy out and beating the hell out of him and returning him to his cell. One night, he said the guy was brought back, bleeding profusely, but dropped outside the cell, just out of arm's reach. And that guy moaned all night and died. These are the kind of things he saw. For me, in this foreign nationals prison, I'd say probably wasn't much worse than a prison here. By the way, I have been arrested. I've been in many police cells, but I've managed to evade a prison sentence so far.
I'm glad to hear it. And this was back in 2012?
No, what I'm talking about now is this year.
Oh, so in 2025.
That's right, yeah.
So this is during the war, during the genocide.
Yeah. I tell you one nice thing, though, about being in the prison. After 3 days, I was moved from the detention centre in the airport to Ramleh prison, the one I'm familiar with. And the thing that lifted my heart, I'm sure it's fine to say this, is hearing the Houthi missiles come over and the sirens going off. That cheered me up so much. I don't think I can get into trouble for saying that.
I mean, you're just sharing an emotion.
Yeah, I am. It buoyed me up. Because the people in Gaza are terrified every night of their lives and have been for nearly 2 years. Petrified, the children. I mean, a few missiles coming over it. Yeah, anyway, it made me feel good.
Can I just ask, Dee, you've been, and that story was harrowing, and it's all plastered all over social media now, that human beings, that's what they are, human beings, and before all else, before their nationality, emaciated, tortured, some of them sexually raped and abused. And you're right, it falls on deaf ears. And one thing that's correlating now is you've got the likes of BBC and co. and the world media, particularly the Western media. They come and publish or publicize after the fact. So after the harrowing situation and everything and everyone else recording, and to be fair, the only, if I may say, the only media outlet that does record and try to record on the ground is Al Jazeera. But then again, you've got Israel killing the journalists.
Yeah.
So my question to you is this. The world and their mothers are witnessing what's happening, the brutalities, the genocide, whatever you want to call it, that's happening up until this very second. You've been protesting, you've been arrested 8 or 9 times in this country, twice in Israel. Yeah. You've got quite the resume. Why do you carry on doing it? Because children are still dying and nothing is happening.
Yeah. I think My answer to that is, I personally could not live with myself if I didn't do something. I'm a grandmother, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, 2 great-grandkids. They look to me, I'm 72. They look at me and I want to show them we have to stand up for humanity. It's beyond religion. It's beyond skin color, anything to do with race or ethnicity. We're all human, right? It's one world. And it's a heartbreaking world that has these borders drawn by powerful people. And it's always the ordinary people who are suffering. And it's like when we speak in Swansea, and Nisa has done the same, we say to people in Swansea, it's your good fortune that you were not born in Gaza. I mean, Gaza is about the same size as the Gower Peninsula, Swansea City and the Gower Peninsula. And the bombs could be raining down on us now. The drones could be over our heads. The snipers could be firing in this window. The drones that play the cries of babies. I don't think people understand. It's people in Gaza today, but who knows the way the world is going. We have to stand up for each other. The rich, the elite, they don't care. Their lives are sorted. They got their bunkers. They've got their plan B. For the people of Gaza particularly, and the West Bank increasingly, there's no plan B. So when we speak, we call out to people, especially people my age, people who maybe don't have to worry about a career or paying mortgages or rearing kids. The older people of this country should be out in their droves and standing up for those people in Palestine who are not able to. I mean, there's resistance, and I mean, praise God for it, because everyone should be defending their people if they can. And people are doing their best to do that in Palestine and Gaza. But honestly, there's so many ordinary people there, older people with kids who can't do that. We have to keep amplifying the voice of the Palestinian people. And that's why I keep acting. I mean, the days I don't do anything are the hardest for me. Because I'm like, you're going down the park with your grandkids, and I know it's important to keep your own life going for your sanity. But I look at them playing on the swings and I'm thinking, where are the swings for the kids in Gaza? And I say that to everyone listening. If you are a parent, especially, look at your children and think about the kids in Palestine and get out in the streets and act. There should be hundreds of thousands, not thousands, hundreds of thousands. And I think till we get off our backsides and get out there, nothing is really going to change. I mean, 50,000, 100,000, it's not enough. There needs to be millions of us. Sorry, you can see I feel strongly about this.
I respect how you delivered that. It was palpable. One thing that I want to latch onto is that you said the elderly people who haven't got anything to lose, economically anyway. And I want to bring your attention to Palestine Action. And obviously it's been prescribed in this country and it's been put on the terrorist list. And I think there is a judicial review happening as we speak. But with the elderly that you've mentioned, you can see hundreds and tens of hundreds of elderly people, primarily English or Caucasian in this country, that hold up placards and are waiting to be arrested in Westminster. And what would you say to them? And what would you say regarding the prescription of Palestine Action?
Well, for a start, come on, it's a farce. I mean, what is the worst thing? The reason apparently they were prescribed was not for doing millions of pounds of damage, and all power to them, in Elbit Systems, the arms factory, sending those lethal drones to Palestine. But they used the fact that they spray painted a fighter jet. Now, I would say to anyone with any reasonable thinking mind, isn't a terrorist organization, you're labeled terrorist if you instill terror into people? Have the people of Palestine Action ever bombed a public place, an airport, a church, a library? No. Have they hurt anyone? No. If they're saying they hurt some guards in one of the factories, well, do them for assault. There's laws for that. But for spray painting, I mean, come on. It's a joke. You know, we all know. The people here and most people listening know it's a way of shutting us all up, trying to shut us down, trying to silence the people who are speaking for Palestine. So I'm very happy to say, and I can't get into any more trouble for saying this, that me and my two sisters were three of the older people in Parliament Square last Saturday being arrested. And I am, I'm proud of my sisters, not so much myself, because I'm almost used to it. I'm so proud of my sisters who never did anything like that in their lives. But they saw this is a step too far.
Thank you, Dee. And lastly, the impunity that Israel enjoys and has enjoyed, and as we film now, only yesterday, Qatar was bombed, and they were supposed to be an ally to America, a negotiator to this fracas. We can call him Santa Claus. They gave a £400 million jet to Trump, not to mention the 1.2 trillion that they've invested in America. What do you think of that? Is that do you decry? Do you laugh? What do you think of that?
I think it's actually deeply depressing across the board. It's made me see that the tentacles of Zionism have such a far reach. And I know you're talking about Qatar, but the most disgusting image I've seen lately is Keir Starmer sitting opposite Herzog, the president of Israel. What was that war criminal doing in this country? Okay, he hasn't got a warrant out for him, apparently. But he's a war criminal. It's genocide. How on earth? And Keir Starmer, he's sitting in his armchair, an old man. He will look at that photo and hopefully be absolutely shamed, because it's for the whole world to see. You are a genocidal, complicit. I don't even have the words. Sorry, I've lost my words. But it's more than being complicit in genocide. He is a genocider, Keir Starmer. And shame on him. And I can't say enough about that.
Point noted. Just lastly, how far do you think Israel can go and act with impunity until the world says enough is enough? Because statistically speaking, I think it's bombed between 8 to 10 sovereign states. Yeah. How far do you think they can go? Because this in itself is unprecedented and a feat. The only other time this occurred, or the likes of this occurred, is when Hitler was invading Poland and France and so on and so forth, but the world was up in arms. So, I mean, you can see similitudes between the way Germany tried to take over Europe and what Israel was doing to the Middle East. They're bombing with precision, they're bombing with impunity, they're bombing without any ramifications.
Do you know what? We've been saying, Niso, do you remember we stood in Castle Square in Swansea, and Niso and I often spoke, mainly Niso at the beginning. But we would talk about the red lines Israel had crossed. Do you remember when they bombed apartment blocks and the whole world, well, the feeling people of the world were shocked. Then they started bombing health centers. Then they moved on to hospitals, then mosques, then churches, then universities. And every time we thought, this is the red line. This is the red line. Now the world will do something. And the more we see for Israel, it's depressing. There seems to be no red line. But the people in Palestine, that I mainly spend my time in Palestine with shepherds and farmers, and their faith is incredible. And they say to me, don't worry, Dee, don't worry, 2027. No more Israel. There will be no more Israel in 2027. Inshallah. And because I can't see where the red line is, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, America is a Zionist entity as much as Israel. And when we think of all the things America's done over those years, all the countries they've bombed since World War II, Is it 47 countries? So it's no surprise. Israel will go on, go on. I pray and hope with all my heart that out of the blue, someone will stop them. China or Russia, I don't care. They need to be stopped. They're out of control and they're animals.
I pray that you live a very long life, and I pray that it's remarkable. And to be fair, you exhibit resilience. And I think all the people that are watching and the viewers that do tune in to this, I think personally for me, it's a sobering reality that people like yourself, and I'll be honest, I carry on, go by my day-to-day life, giggling here, doing this here and doing that there. And the fact that you said that when you go out and take your grandchildren out to the park, at the very least, you're saying that children in Palestine are not playing on the swings, the kids and that's at the very least. They're dying of malnourishment. They're dying of bombs. They're dying of shrapnel. They're dying of lack of anesthesia.
Yeah.
That we can go on, and I pray that we all are on the right side of history. And when we're long gone, as we all are going to go, right? This world is ephemeral for us anyway.
Yeah.
That our kids and our great grandkids to come will say that our generation and our world, despite all of this happening, and remarkably, no one's actually stood up and said anything, that there were human beings on this planet, and God is our witness, that did care and did everything they could to their utmost capacity. Thank you very much, Dee. I'm going to bring in Nizo now.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum, Nizo.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you very much for returning. Your episode with me was very powerful. And also, I know that Palestine and the cause is very dear to your heart, and you, not as much as dear, if I can say, if that's a fair thing to say, have done everything in your power and capacity through your charity routes and going to protests and making your voice loud and clear and heard, particularly on social media, and I follow you ardently as well. How noble this cause is to you and how severe this cause is to you. So the floor is yours. What do you want to say on firstly what Dee has said, and then add anything you wish?
Yeah, salam alaikum everyone. And listening to Dee is always inspiring. And I'll tell you what really inspired me to maybe look more into direct action and not just going to protests. Protests I've been going to for a very long time. Same from the Iraq war. That was kind of the first one. Then for Libya, the Arab Spring, Palestine. But it was just going, protesting and coming back. I was in university. I was I was in high school and I was looking through something, and then I see a video of a protester entering into Tesco's and filling up trolleys while someone's filming with Israeli products from illegal settlements, products that under international law are not allowed to be sold in the United Kingdom. And the video was maybe like a 10-minute video, and the lady was Dee, and there was another person with her. Yeah. And they took these trolleys outside and tipped everything on the floor, and people were shocked. The staff, the security, everyone was looking like, what's going on? And she gave a very short 3 or 4 minute speech explaining rather why these products should not be sold, the impact that selling these products has on the Palestinians, the indigenous people of that land. And up until that, I knew about Palestine. I knew that Israel has always been killing, murdering, stealing, but I didn't really know much about kind of the BDS side of things. And from that video I saw of Dee, that's when I really started looking in. I learned about the BDS program. I learned about boycotting. I learned about these things. So Dee has been an integral part, not just for me, but for many, many people in South Wales who have now become activists and now are talking publicly. Dee was, the person that's been doing this for such a long time, regardless of who stood with her, whether she was alone or not. So again, hats off to Dee. She's an amazing, amazing inspiration.
If I can stop you there, Nizo, thank you. Thank you, Dee, for ensuring that this country or the supermarkets in this country are not doing anything illegally under the law, international law. And to be fair, ridding all those products, you're just saving them from being sued or getting in the crosshairs of international law. So thank you for that. I think you've done the country a good service there. Just quickly, Nizo, I have a question for you. We do the boycotts and we do the marches and everything else, and you can see, and statistics don't lie, that a lot of chains have closed in this country and further afield. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, look, the boycotting is such a powerful thing. Boycotting has much more power and long-term damage, or does more long-term damage to the occupier, to the unjust, to the oppressor, than people understand. And what really, sorry, I'm going to swear, but what really pisses me off is people that I know, people that I've seen, people that sometimes post about Palestine, I see them still drinking Coca-Cola. I see them sitting in Costa, sitting in Starbucks, and their excuse is boycotting does nothing. Well, of course it does nothing, because you're not boycotting. You're sat there putting the money into it. South Africa fell. Apartheid South Africa fell mainly because of the boycotts. Like, look, Israel's in a very, very, I guess, for them, a lucky position where they are so powerful and influential in all areas of life, whether it's politics, whether it's banking and finance, whether it's trade. Israeli companies and investment companies have their hands in a lot of these organizations. They have a lot of people in these organizations who are ex-Israeli intelligence and ex-IDF. The funds are still going to Israel. So regardless of how many people protest, how many people stand in the streets, as long as the money is coming in, those tanks and those helicopters and those bullets are being refueled, and they're being used to kill innocent people. If we boycott, if we stop funding these specific organizations, that even the United Nations rapporteur, Francesca Albanese, came out and said these are the companies that are financing Israel, and she got sanctioned by the United States government for saying so. There's states in America that it is illegal to boycott Israel. So you can see the impact that boycotting has, and people just need to do something. It's called sacrifice. And for the Muslims out there, this is a word that you're going to be familiar with. In Arabic, we have a word. I refuse to say I boycott anymore, because boycotting, when you say I'm boycotting, that means I'm refraining from this item that I would probably want or desire or require. In Arabic, we have a word called mustaghni. And mustaghni means I am free from desire or need from this product. Why are we giving these products that importance to make such a big deal if we don't buy Coca-Cola, if we don't buy Nestle products? We don't need them. They're not good for you. They're not good for the environment. They're based on child labor. They're damaging the world, and they're funding wars. Why are we even looking at these products? There's alternatives. There are so many organizations and ethical, moral businesses that are supporting good causes, not just in Palestine. They're supporting help in Congo. They're supporting projects locally in the United Kingdom, homeless people, people with dementia, all of these things. Why are we not putting our money into companies that actually look after the world?
Powerful. I've got a question for both of you here, Dee and Nizo. So my take of the British people, being born and bred here, is we're a tolerant people. And the indigenous people, what I mean by that, they've got historic roots here, hundreds and thousands of years. The white people across our four lands are very tolerant, somewhat educated to some degree, and we live in a democratic society. And we have constituencies. I'm not sure how many constituencies we do have, and I'm not trying to give a patronizing political lesson here, but each constituency is represented by an MP. And they are a delegate for the people to represent in Parliament.
Apparently.
Apparently. Yeah. Keyword, big keyword. So my question to you is this. If we as a nation are tolerant people and people with morals, why haven't we, if we feel such distaste and we're so aggrieved by what's happening in Israel, why haven't we all written to our MPs and constituencies? And if we have done that, I may be ignorant here or not in the know-how, why haven't those MPs reflected that in Parliament? Because from my understanding, it's not an overwhelming cause in Parliament.
Well, I would say I'm not a big one for writing to MPs, but every so often I'll still do it because I feel, well, they're there. That's their job. Give them something to do, let them earn their money. But they'll fob you off. In fact, my local MP, when I was in prison in Israel, was very helpful to the family. He supported the family. He said he would speak to the embassy, or the British embassy in Israel. Did he condemn Israel for arresting me? Of course he didn't. I mean, our MPs, we have mainly Labour MPs here. They're safe for another 3 years or so. And by the way, they've been bought by the Zionists. Look who's funding them. There's a huge list of MPs who have been directly funded by Zionist organizations. All they're interested in is power and money.
Forgive me for being naive, Dee.
Yeah.
But I thought we lived in a democratic society, ruled by the people for the people. So despite these fundings, as you've stated, surely if there's enough of us in our constituencies whom we have delegated to speak on our behalf in Parliament, stood up and peacefully and democratically expressed their voice, the MP, the Member of Parliament, has no choice but to reflect our voices. So why hasn't that happened?
Because it's a facade.
Okay.
This isn't really a democracy. Nisa, would you agree?
Democracy is a concept that only exists in people's minds. There is no actual example anywhere in the world of true democracy where people have power over the politicians. And talking about the MPs in Swansea, this is a hilarious story. 3 weeks ago, I went to the gym. And as I was coming out of the gym, one of Swansea MPs, I'm going to name her, Carolyn Harris, who is a Labour MP, and she was actually on the Labour Friends of Israel list before it was deleted and removed. She was coming out of the gym at the same time. So when I saw her, I wanted to question her because her voting record, she's abstained from every single vote for ceasefires. Now she puts herself forward as a champion of women's rights and menopause. So when she came out of the gym, I had a conversation with her, and I'm very, very lucky, alhamdulillah, that I put my phone on record before I spoke and then until the conversation was finished. So I was having a conversation. She was engaging in conversation. She was talking back. She was not under any alarm or distress. She mentioned me by name because she knows who I am. And in fact, in 2014, she actually came and stood with us in Castle Square in Swansea, standing for Palestine. That all changed when the money started coming in. So I started asking her questions about her voting record. And I said, you put yourself forward as a champion of women's rights. Not once have you spoken about the women in Gaza. And she said, Nizo, I'm going to call the police. And then as soon as I said, you can't call the police and you can't threaten me, and I've got this on camera recording, she didn't say another word and walked off. The whole interaction was maybe 1 minute. About 5 days ago, I get a phone call from a withheld number, and I answer the phone. Hello? Yeah, this is South Wales Police. I was like, okay, how can I help you? He said, oh, it's with regard to the incident with the MP, Carolyn Harris. Now me knowing that she was probably going to call the police and report me, as soon as that incident finished, I picked up the phone, I called 101, I explained the situation. I said, I've got the video from start to finish. She's probably going to put a false complaint in against me for harassment. But I'm telling you now, I don't want you to raid my house. If there is any complaint, give me a call. 3 weeks went by, I forgot about the whole situation, and then they called me. They said she called the police, and obviously, she's filed a complaint for harassment. And I said, do you know what the legal definition of harassment is? He was like, well, yeah. I said, well, what is it then? Because harassment means that on more than one occasion, you either stalk, follow, abuse, or threaten with violence or intimidation somebody. This is the first time I've spoken to her in a long time, and I've got the whole thing recorded, and it's on social media. He said, yeah, I've seen the video. And you haven't committed any offense, and you haven't done anything wrong. I said, so why the hell are you calling me? Oh, well, just to let you know, stay away from her. And obviously, there's official channels as an MP. I said, I've exhausted those channels, and we all have. She is a person of a public person, and she's in the public eye. And as an MP, a member of parliament, a representative of people of this great city, why do I not have the right to engage in conversation with her?
Thanks for that, Nizo. Can I then ask you a question? Because it seems like harassment and almost as if that because our judicial system, or our penal system, both, we, particularly in criminal law, the onus is on prosecution to find you guilty. So the standpoint, the default position is innocent. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but from your interactions with many agencies, and whilst you're fighting for this cause, has that flipped on its head? So is it guilty and then found innocent, or is it still innocent until proven guilty?
We live in a police state, and currently it's you're guilty. Even if you're proven innocent, you're guilty. Even if you're not charged with anything, you're on the radar. Your life is made difficult. You are followed. You are watched. You are monitored. You know, since the last time I came on your podcast, I was going through a legal battle for being arrested at a protest last year. I went to court in Ramadan, me and 18 other co-defendants. 5 of them still have the case, so I'm not going to talk about theirs, but I can talk about myself. I was found guilty, even though the judge said you were engaging your European Convention of Human Rights, you were non-violent. But at the end of the day, the government policy now is to criminalize anybody that is taking a stance against Israel. Because when you're taking a stance against Israel, by default, you're taking a stance against every single government, every single politician who is involved in this genocide with them. Yeah. And as Dee said earlier about complicity, the UK are not complicit in genocide. They are partners in genocide. You know, many of these latest attacks that have taken place where, you know, the journalists were killed outside of the hospital, or where people were killed in the flat with a double tap bombing, the RAF, the British Royal Air Force, was circling the exact area, giving coordinates and information. Now, here they have put a gagging order. Nobody is allowed to report on that. So the exact details of what information was passed to Israel, even the families of the British aid workers who were in the food convoy that were killed last year, they are still now in this inquiry saying that the government refused to give us any information. So automatically we are guilty. Anybody speaking out against Israel is guilty. Guilty of what? Guilty of being a human being. Guilty of not bowing down to the occupiers or the injustice. And something that Dee said earlier, and you know, a lot of people don't like this, but unlucky for those who don't. Israel has no legal right to exist. Israel should not exist. And inshallah, very soon, Israel will not exist. Now, let me clarify, because I know some people are probably going to take that snippet and enjoy it. Enjoy it. Put it wherever you want, because I believe in what I say. Israel not existing has nothing to do with Jewish people not living in that area. Jews have always lived there alongside Muslims and Christians and people of no faith and Bedouins, people who came from Armenia, people from all over Europe who came fleeing the persecution of the British anti-Semitism and the Jewish problem, as David Lloyd George and Lord Balfour used to call it. So sending the Jews over there was an act of anti-Semitism. It was no liberation. But the Palestinians welcomed them. They lived side by side for centuries, even before the 1800s, the late 1800s, with the inception of Zionism. People lived in the Holy Land side by side. They married into each other. They looked after each other's children. They cooked with each other. They were one people. Israel came and destroyed that. Why? Because Western colonialism, that is exactly what they do. Divide and conquer borders, split people up, weaken people, and expand. So when we say Israel has no right to exist, no, that's not a call for genocide. It's actually the opposite. It's calling for an end to a genocidal, racist, apartheid, extremist, terrorist entity that was forced upon the indigenous people of that land by the anti-Semites who were slaughtering the Jews and launched the worst pogroms and aggression against innocent Jewish people in the Western world.
And you know what I think is very interesting? In Parliament Square on Saturday, there was a large, very large Jewish anti-Zionist contingent. There was 2 groups. There was the Jewish survivors of families of the Holocaust, and then there was the International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network. And I know one of the guys actually in that, because he's from Llanelli. He was born in Llanelli. He lives in London. He told me that all through Corbyn's campaigns, when you had the Zionist Jews outside Parliament screaming anti-Semitism, you had a larger group of pro-Corbynite Jewish people pro-Palestinian people, anti-Zionist Jews on the other side, and the media would not turn their camera around, even though these people on the other side were also Jewish. And that's the shocking state of affairs. But you asked a question earlier about, prove innocent till you're proven guilty. Lisa will know this story, and it just shows you the lengths the police are going to silence people in any way supporting Palestine. I was found guilty, and it's on camera, so I'm not going to deny it. It was Christmas time, and we were being leafleting the people in the town, explaining to them that Jesus was a Palestinian, and he was dressed with the keffiyeh and the Palestinian colors. And we were trying to remind them, especially the Christians, like outside the churches on the Kingsway, etc., that if you care about Jesus, you've got to care about Palestinians. So I did a little bit of graffiti. Now, Jesus was a Palestinian, was the graffiti. Is that offensive to anyone? How could that be offensive? I mean, you live in the city, especially Bristol, right? Every city has graffiti all over the place. It's a feature of modern life, isn't it? I had my door of my house battered down, and a police van with uniformed police and 2 plainclothes took me in handcuffs.
To what? Sorry, to pacify a 72-year-old elderly woman.
I was 71 at the time.
Sorry, forgive me.
Yeah.
71-year-old woman.
For a bit of graffiti, not on an important municipal building, no, on a bit of boarded up building. So I remember saying to the judge, how many people have you had before you for doing a bit of graffiti? You do not go around breaking into people's homes, arresting graffiti artists.
Particularly 70-year-old women.
Yeah, but it was Palestine. That's the point. It was for Palestine. I could have been 18, I think, honestly. But it was because it was for Palestine. They will go to great lengths, all lengths.
Thank you for that. I'm shocked, to be fair, because I thought I lived in a country that was free and fair and extremely tolerant. And we have extremely progressive laws now. Yeah. So I can't understand the double standards where, from your anecdotal evidence, one rule for Palestine and one rule for everything else. I just don't understand it. The British people historically are known for their tolerance, and British people are historically known to be fair. So
sorry, it's just Anissa will be more eloquent on this. We live in a Zionist state. It is the Tory party, the Labour Party. I think the Libs Dems are the only ones speaking out a bit, but the Labour Party is a Zionist party. They've got rid of all the good people. My
question is, and I don't expect any of you to answer it, we're running after time, is why? And again, perhaps that could be extended to America, because I think the American people are umming and ahhing about having enough. Why is it that we're sacrificing our soldiers and our money and our healthcare, particularly in the US, for these guys? Why? But I don't expect you to answer that question. Perhaps we can have you both on again to explore further questions with the brilliant and articulate deeper meanings that you've provided. I haven't told you guys, we're trying to get Jeremy Corbyn on. It's a big ask, but we will want to get him on. And if we do have him on, perhaps you guys can feature for a few minutes or so. It's a big ask, but we are trying to get him on to hear about his views, perhaps his new party, and everything else that's happening in the world. Lastly, Nizo, I have a question for you. There have been a lot of people, and you brought it to my attention, and I concur. I'm turning it away from everyone else, that have been drumming the drums of Palestine, but have been successful at it. And it just seems to me that that's their only purpose, for monetary gains.
Bro, don't get me started. I mean, look, I applaud every single person that uses their platform to speak for not just Palestine, but to speak against oppression and injustice. If you're sincerely doing it for that reason, and you're putting the voice of those being oppressed at the forefront, and any message that you're putting out is directly from the people that are affected by what's going on, then you're doing the right thing. But it's very, very sad to see, whether it's just people on social media or whether it's musicians or actors, people using this as almost like a fashion statement. And not everybody has been aware about what's going on in Palestine for the last 77 years. Some people may have only realized but recently. But I don't know. It's bro. I don't want to say the wrong thing, and I really this isn't a personal attack on anyone, but this is just a message in general for anybody that's an activist and speaking for Palestine. You are nothing. I am nothing. Like, don't make this about us. Don't make anything about you. Don't say I've done this and I've done that. No one cares. Do you get me? Our role, is not liberating Palestine. That can only be done by the Palestinians, and they're doing a damn good job at it. They are resisting, they are fighting, they are resilient, they are warriors, they are brave. Every single positive description you can think of to explain somebody that you should be putting on a pedestal is the people of Palestine, and especially the people of Gaza. Our role is to amplify their voices. Our role is to push their message and make sure that people don't forget that this is still going on. But sadly, in this day and age, some people, people are selfish. People want to be me, 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 me. But I always say this, even in charity work, humble yourself. You ain't shit. Like, we are in a very unique position where we're given an opportunity to be a part, and this is as a Muslim speaking, to be a part of God's mercy. We believe that God is the most merciful, God is the most loving and the most kind. And these are tests that we are going through. And the way that you see the Palestinians or even the refugees I work with in the camps, the way you see their conviction, as Dee said as well, the faith that they have that everything is going to be okay, means that they understand that this is just temporary and this will pass, and truth and good will always overcome evil. Our position, we are blessed to be in a position where, firstly, we are using our minds and our hearts and understanding that this is wrong. Secondly, we're trying to speak out, but do not ever let your voice get louder than the voice of the Palestinians. Do not ever let yourself think that you are something special or you are coming to save the day. You're not. Believe me, you're not. And again, it's not personal to anyone. It's a reminder, firstly, to myself, but then to everybody else. We are merely vessels to express our anger and our humanity when we see injustice taking place. But the Palestinians are the voice that we should be pushing. Just like in Syria, it's the Syrians you should be pushing. In Sudan, it's the Sudanese we should be pushing. In Congo, it's the Congolese. Here in the UK, it's the people that are affected by austerity measures and going to food banks. These are the people that are affected directly. These are the people who we need to put at the forefront, not us. Our role as activists is just to help and support and to make sure that people don't forget what's going on.
Thank you very much, Nizo. Final words from you, dear Dee, if I can call you that.
You can. I just want to put a call out. If anyone is listening to this is in a privileged position, as I was, to go to Palestine, would you please check out ISM, the International Solidarity Movement? It is a Palestinian-led organization, and they're calling for internationals to be in the West Bank with them, stand alongside them. The ethnic cleansing is increasing like at a ridiculous pace. If I had time, I could give you first-hand accounts, but maybe another time. But please check out ISM. And if you can't do that, do what Nizo said, boycott, boycott, boycott. It does make a difference.
Thank you very much, Steve. I
want to add one final thing before we finish.
Sure.
And this is a message to the Muslims in the UK, Muslims neighboring Palestine. What are you doing? Where is your shame? Where is your ghira, your love for your brothers? Now, look, Dee, she's not a Muslim, but she is a human. She's doing this because humanity compels her to do this. She's not doing it because she's forced to. She's not doing it because she's obliged to. She's doing it because she feels she has a heart and she can see the difference between right and wrong. Muslims, you are obliged It's in, if you say ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, and you call yourself a Muslim, your obligations as a Muslim is to speak out against injustice, even if it's against yourself, even if it's against your parents, even if it's against your loved ones. So the fact that we have people, loads of people like Dee, who are going out, putting themselves on the line, whilst the Muslims are sitting in Starbucks and sitting drinking Coca-Cola and eating McDonald's and saying, oh, what can we do? Shame on every single one of you. You have an obligation to get up, and you should be inspired and shamed by actions of people like Dee and others like her, because you have a responsibility and a duty to do it. Dee, you're a legend. God bless you.
I concur. Lastly, I'll just wrap up with this. Thank you very much to my esteemed guest. Very powerful. Thank you very much for your time. I know how busy both of you are. And certainly, Dee, we'll be more than happy to have you on again to go into further detail. And Nisa, as always, the doors are always wide open for you to come and give your take. I've read something quite profound, and I'll leave you with this. I'll conclude with this. 2 days ago, actually, the grandson of Nelson Mandela, who was on the flotilla that left many shores heading towards Palestine, which has been bombed and the media hasn't covered it. And what he said was, I've been to Palestine, and what we went through as a nation, or what my grandfather Nelson Mandela went through at the height of apartheid, is diminutive in comparison to what's happening now. So I call out to humanity, for the sake of humanity. If the grandson of Nelson Mandela, who was at the height, his grandfather was at the height of apartheid, is saying this is diminutive, I'm paraphrasing here. What are we doing? Thank you very much for watching. Long live Palestine, and we will have more episodes on this. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.